With the London Mayor Boris Johnson, who, as you can see, joins me now. Thanks very much
Good morning.
for being with us. Your thoughts this morning, Boris?
Well, I think everybody's thoughts are very much with the survivors, their families, obviously those who look back on the loss of those 52 lives with a great deal of pain. But I think the great thing about London 10 years after the bombings is that, you know, those terrorists did not change the city in the way that they thought that they would. And no matter how much pain and how many wounds that they gave, they didn't win.
No, but we should be mindful now the words of the boss of MI5 who's in the papers this morning saying there's a very real chance that this could happen again.
Absolutely, and I was going to go on to say, you know, London remains, you know, the most dynamic, the most cosmopolitan. It's the capital of the world. The values of the city haven't remotely changed. But as you rightly say, there remains a serious threat. There are probably, you know, in the low thousands of people that we have to monitor, that we have to observe, and that's a very serious risk the whole time.
Do you share the view of some who've expressed the opinion that the Muslim community should be doing more to help us identify those who would do us harm?
Look, I think that it's up to everybody who's bringing up kids who might be at risk of this kind of radicalisation to identify them, to make the police, the social services, the authorities of whatever description aware of the problem that they've got. Because you're not only helping yourself and your family, you are potentially saving the life of that kid and indeed of others. So I would urge everybody, if you think your kid, if you think you know people in your family who are being radicalised by this nonsense, dob them in. Dob them in.
Can you even begin to contemplate what goes on in the mind of a youngster who takes the view that the rest of the community in which he or she was brought up is the enemy and they want to kill us?
Look, I think you're dealing, in many cases with these kids, you're dealing with people who are vulnerable to all sorts of, you know, criminal behaviour. They could get into gangs, they could get into drug gangs or whatever. They could be drawn into all sorts of criminality. But there is no doubt that a certain specific toxic ideology is having an effect on young minds in this country. And you're right, that needs to be tackled, it needs to be tackled head on. And it is vital that we win. It is vital that we win the propaganda war.
Isn't it also perhaps vital, as many people would suggest, that we should all, particularly politicians like yourself, should ask yourselves questions about why this has happened, and ask yourselves the question, are we at least to some extent to blame for going into Afghanistan, for going into Iraq?
Can I just say, I think that is absolutely the wrong line of argument. I think the minute you get into exculpation of this kind of terrorism, on the basis of what may or may not have happened in international engagements, in foreign wars, in Palestine or whatever, you are letting too many people off the hook. You're letting too many people off the hook. This is a toxic ideology that is transmitted very largely over the web now, that needs to be dealt with, that needs to be fought. And it needs to be fought by families, by social services, by the police, and yes, by religious leaders, by people in the Muslim community. No question.
Many thanks for your time.
Thank you.
When Muslim teenagers come to you and say, I want to be a good Muslim, and Islamic State say, I can be a good Muslim and join this movement, what do you say to them?